So today's, we're going to focus on B-1, B-2, visa waiver, bond, humanitarian parole. And the reason why we're talking about this is because it is so easily overlooked, but it is so important because it significantly impacts every other area we do. The reason why it's important is because it's kind of like the gateway. People come in, they see, they like it, they believe in it, then they invest, then they immigrate, and then they come here. When I advise people to do EB-1A, when I advise people to do EB-2 and a W, a lot of times my first step is, well, secure your B-1, B-2 visa first, come in, and then go to the trade shows, go to the universities, and build up your case, and then you file. B-1, B-2 is a tourist visa to come in, and the B-1 visa is the business visa. And that's actually different than B-1, B-2. And that, when you're doing a corporate counsel, if you're building out a firm that you're helping companies set up their talent acquisition, you're not just looking at how do you hire US employees, you're thinking about how do you get H-1B employees, how to get OPT employees, and how can you get B-1 visa holders that come abroad from overseas to your factory, to your office for your training, and help and let them contribute. B-1 visa is specific. It's like you're being paid overseas, right? Your work into US might incidentally benefit a US company, but you're not in the US labor force. You are not competing with US employees and workers. So the most common idea of B-1 visa is like, somebody creates a big machinery, they send it overseas, you need to maintain it. There's no US engineer that knows how to deal with that machine, so they send an engineer from overseas to service it. Now, B-1, B-2, a lot of people also get in trouble if they're tourists, because let's say you are a really famous person. You are a photographer, you are a celebrity, you're an influencer, you're a content creator. You fly into the country. And of course, you're going to be eating, you're going to be filming, you're going to be posting. But that's your full-time job now. You're a content creator and you post. And then you get sponsorship deals. Well, then are you working in the US or are you not working in the US? And if you're constantly flying to the US and posting and going to red carpet events, you're competing against other influencers, right? So CBP officers are constantly asked these questions. They have to make a split-second decision. So how do they make a determination if you are violating your B-1, B-2 status? The biggest indication is, well, your airfare, your hotel, what you're doing, how you make your money. And a lot of times they ask, what do you do for a living? And so if you don't have a job overseas, ding, 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 now they think there's a problem. Tour visa, additional perks that you can do. You can change to different statuses, you can do extension, file adjustment of status. Visa waiver, on the other hand, you can't. So visa waiver is something you come into the country. It's like a tourist visa, but it's much easier to apply for, but you get half of it. Instead of coming for 6 months, you only come for 90 days. But you don't have to deal with the bureaucracy. The payment is a lot cheaper. You're not paying for an expensive visa, and only certain countries have it. The consulates do a lot of analysis to see which countries can be added onto the list. But the moment they do, B-1, B-2 drops significantly. Because if everybody could do a visa waiver, well, why are you applying for a B-1, B-2 visa? Which means if you're a practitioner and you're building out a practice, your practice becomes how to do the visa waiver or how to do complex B-1, B-2. Because every single B-1, B-2 visa application in that country becomes a complex one because there's so few that's done. And the consular officer is going to be asking, why are you applying for a B-1, B-2 when you already have a visa waiver, right? Or if your visa waiver got canceled and you're applying for B-1, B-2, something must have been up, right? So every B-1, B-2 becomes complicated. And then if you can't do the visa waiver, you can't do the B-1, B-2, then you're forced to do the E2s. And the thing is, if the US has good enough relationship with that other country and they're economically feasible enough that not a lot of people are overstaying or abusing the visa system, chances are they're probably a treaty country with an E2 country. So if you are a practitioner dealing with immigration from countries that have visa waivers, then you really look into E2. You look into complex B-1, B-2 applications or B-1 applications. Those are the things that you can concentrate your practice on. Now, if you are practicing majority with clientele that don't have visa waiver privileges, that are not part of E2, then you should focus on B-1, B-2. But then again, everybody already does B-1, B-2. So you either do the most difficult, complex ones, or you are dealing with people who got the B-1, B-2. How do you maintain it for them? And how do you do change of status? And how do you do adjustment of status from the B-1, B-2? right? That becomes an area that you need to learn and master. In the past 10 years, 15 years, CBP has not been super strict on first world countries, but we're starting to see CBP officers getting extra strict on Europeans as well as Canadians. So people who have their B-1, B-2 visa threatened, well, the only way is to secure it is upgrade it to an E-2. That business you had, make it into a real business, get a real visa, and get the proper paperwork. That's what CBP officers say. If you're strategizing with a client, if they're going to do an E2 business, L1 business, EB2, ENW, you want to say, well, do you have a B1, B2 visa? How do you get here first, right? Because a lot of people, they might have kids overseas. They have a whole family overseas. Do I want to come to the U.S.? Do I not want to come? What does it look like to be an O1 entertainer in the U.S.? Well, you want to, step by step kind of build it out. Now I'm going to talk about bond and talk about humanitarian parole. Bond is when the consular officer doesn't quite believe you, right? You say you're going to come back to their home country, but they don't believe you because your family's already in the U.S., given your age, your able working body, 90% big data suggests you will just go there and just get a job. So in a point where they want to approve you, but they don't quite believe you, there's the bond. The bond hasn't been widely used in the past, but starting last year, Trump announced the immigrant bond, non-immigrant bond, where you can pay $10,000, $15,000 to say, hey, look, if I don't leave, then you keep the money. But if I do leave, you give me the money back. It's a bond. This is going to have a very adverse consequence to all the poorer countries because poorer countries, affording a plane ticket is expensive. Affording a visa is expensive. Now paying for bond, but eventually we might see this more and more and more. Then the last thing is humanitarian parole. You can't get a visa. You can't get a B-1, B-2 visa. You can't get a visa waiver. You can't get any sort of other visa. But you need to come to the U.S. There's a humanitarian need for you to come to the U.S. What can you do? You can apply for humanitarian parole to allow you to come in. It's like a one-time entry to come in, to do your thing, and then to leave. And it's a case-by-case basis. There's legitimate reasons and situations where you'll never be able to get a visa, but your U.S. family needs you, so they put you in. And there's unique situations, like, for example, the DACA recipient who went overseas to get his green card, but they didn't apply for a waiver, and they thought they didn't need to because the lawyer told them they didn't need to. Left the U.S., when the consulate denied, now they can't see their family again. But the consulate, by law, cannot give you a visa. How can I give you a visa? Tourist visa? Of course you have immigrant intent, right? You've lived in the U.S. for like 30 years. What can you possibly do? Humanitarian is a catch-all. If the consulate cannot do it, the CBP can do it. So these are ways to enter the United States. And so if you are a practicing immigration professional, you need to have a good mastery of the interplay between the visa waivers, the B-1, B-2 visas, the bonds, the humanitarian paroles, because these are the tools in order to really strategize well in somebody's immigration journey.